Hello and welcome to part 1 of the second Johnny Blender tutorial series. Now before I get started, I get a lot of questions about what type of setup I have here, so I'll go ahead and just show you my specs. I've got Windows 7 Ultimate Edition, 32-bit, and 4 gigs of installed RAM, and being 32-bit Windows, it's only 3.0 gigabytes usable. I got an Intel quad-core CPU. The Q6700, which I've had. The tower that I have is a Dell XPS 410, which is about a little over 3 years old, but I've made upgrades to it, so it still works pretty decently. Got a 5.9 Windows Experience Index. It says it needs to be refreshed, but last time, I think it's just because I've powered it off a few times. But anyways, the graphics card I have is a NVIDIA GeForce GTS 250, and here's some of the specs on that. It's 128 CUDA cores. I'm not sure exactly what that is, but got some pretty good specs here. I haven't had any problems with it. So anyways, that's that. Now let's go ahead and jump in here. First thing you need to do for this series is you need to take some reference pictures or find some. This is going to be try to make a fairly photorealistic head bust. Like if you've seen my Arnold Schwarzenegger model, we're going to go for something like that, except hopefully we can get it looking a little bit better. So yesterday, I got a fresh haircut and went outside my backyard and took a few reference photos. Now these photos are not only just for reference to model by, but if you can find a good enough camera, you can get in and really get some good skin textures that we can use to paint our skin texture map once we get to that point. So see, I've got a fresh haircut, got some hair particles about, but we can fix that in Photoshop later on when we start the texture painting process. So anyways, let's go ahead and jump into Blender and get started with this. Now, when modeling from pictures, I like to create two separate windows. You do that just by going up to these diagonal lines, and your cursor will turn into little crosshairs. You just click and hold, and just drag out like that. And you can make as many of these as you like. And then you got too many, say, you want to collapse them again, just do the same thing, except click and drag really quick, because if you just click and hold, it'll go ahead and create another one. But you click and drag real quick, and as you can see, it puts an arrow, and whichever direction the arrow is facing, that's the way it's going to merge the two windows together. So right now, if I had something different in the bottom window and the arrow is pointing up, I let go and it merges the bottom with the top one. So for example, say we go in here and change our editor type to, say, graph editor, and now I go over here, click and drag it up, boom, it's the complete graph editor now, and the same thing left and right. So anyway, so that's how you divide your windows up in Blender 2.5. Now I'm going to load in our images. So I'm going to go to View, and let's see, View, and let's see here. I haven't done this yet in 2.53, so bear with me a minute. If you hit N on your keyboard, it'll bring up your properties. I think there's a display, yes. Background images, there we go. Add an image, check it, and we'll go, I guess maybe I need to add it over here in the textures area first. So let's see, what type of texture is it? It's an image. I'm going to open it, and it's going to be in, see all these projects I have. JB 2.0. Did I click it? Huh. Go back. Okay, reference pictures. And if you wait for a second, it'll pop up some thumbnails. So right now I'm going to load the front-facing one, which I think this was probably the best one for that. So we'll open that. And now we can go over here and choose, actually we could open it right there, I guess. There we go. And do the same thing over here. In on our keyboard and scroll down. Background images. Add image. And there we go. Yeah, you got to toggle it. Then you can open it. So we'll open. Keeps going to the wrong folder. Where are we at? Blender files. JB 2.0 reference. And let's go with. I guess this one's a good side profile. Open. Okay. Oops. Now, get rid of my property so I can see a little better. Also, you can hit T on your keyboard to get rid of your tool shelf so you can see the full window there. Now, actually I need to turn the properties back on, see if I can't adjust my image there. Just move it on the x-axis until it's centered up a little bit better. And as you can see here, the green line is pretty much with the top of the eye, so let's do the same thing on this side. Let's go to the front view, okay. And I guess the green line will coincide with the red line. So let's move this image in on our keyboard. Down. Let's get that centered up for one, okay. And then bring it down on the y-axis. Let's go into hit Z to go into wireframe view. And we can go down just a little bit more. There, that looks about right. And let's go ahead and scale our box here. Grab our box. G stands for grab, as I've been told. So let's scale that up. And if we just hit S and just move our mouse, it'll scale everything. But if you hit Z, it'll scale it only on the Z-axis, X only on the X-axis, Y only on the Y-axis, so on and so forth. The 3 dimensions. So we'll scale it up to about like that to get the overall size, and then scale on the Z-axis to get the height. So I'll just put it about like that, and then move it down to where the bottom is pretty well even with the chin, and the top is pretty well even with the top of the head. So let's see what it looks like over here in our profile view. So now we need to move our background image down a little bit. So that's probably good. Maybe we'll make it a tiny bit smaller. Right now the size is 5.0. Let's make it a little smaller and move it back down. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to line up the image so when we start modeling, it's going to match up in both viewports. So for example, if I tab into edit mode of my cube here by hitting tab and I hit R, actually that's rotating, hit A to deselect everything and come out here and hit R, or actually excuse me, it's Control R. We're going to add a loop there, and I can move, after I click, I can move it up and down to tell where I want. So I'm going to put that right in the middle of the eyes, right there. You can see it's not quite lined up over here. So we can put a few more reference points on here. Control R. Let's put this in the mouth. And now we can line this image up a little bit better. So it looks like it needs to come back up. Maybe that 5.0 was a good size. So that's about right. That'll work. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this cube. So we got our picture lined up pretty well. So let's just add a new one. Hit Shift A, and it brings up your Add menu, and just go to Cube, and it's just going to put it wherever your mouse cursor was. Now be aware, you'll lose your background image if you start rotating around your scene. So this is only visible when you're looking straight forward, straight on the side, from the top, whatever. If you hit 1 on your keyboard, you're looking straight forward. 3 is from the side. 7, again, is from the top in Control, as I said in Part 0. The problem is, I don't know that it's a problem, but like I made 2 different windows. Now, there's a couple of different ways that I could just put it in one window. I could put some planes up and put these images on the planes, but I prefer to do it as a background image. So, but anyways, that being said, if you have your forward-facing photo in this window, you pretty much have to keep your model forward-facing in this window, and then this model can be the profile view, and because that's the background image, that's pretty much how it has to stay while you're modeling. Once you get done modeling, you can go ahead and get rid of your background images and then worry about texture painting and things like that. But anyways, Already 10 minutes into this, we haven't even started modeling yet. Let's do that. Let's get our box modeled up. So the way we can do that is if we hit Shift S, it's going to bring up our snap menu, and we can say put the cursor in the center. So it's going to pop that cursor to the middle of the scene. If you look closely, you can see the blue line, which is the Z-axis, and the red line, which is the X-axis, and then over here the green axis. So we have our cursor perfectly center in the center of our universe here. So now if we got our box selected, we hit Shift S again, we can have some more options. We can say the selection that we have, which is the box, to the cursor. Boom, and it centers it right there on the scene also. So anyways, now let's start modeling. We'll go, I guess we'll go over here. I hit N on my keyboard to get rid of the properties, and I'm going to hit T over on this side to bring up the tool shelf. Now, I want to go into edit mode of my box here, zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to hit W, and I want to subdivide. And what subdividing is it's going to cut our box up into multiple pieces. Right now it has one cut on each face that's selected. All faces are selected, so it's cutting like a six-sided die. It's going to cut, you know, on every face, so you're going to see extra pieces in here. It looks like two cuts, but you know, it's cutting this side once and then this side once, and anyways, this gives us one cut on each side. So I actually like to work with at least 3 cuts to start out with. But since we're going to be really detailing this, let's go ahead and go up to 5 cuts. I make it an odd number so I have one directly down the middle, because what I'm going to do now is deselect everything by hitting A. A, by the way, selects everything or deselects everything. So if you have one point up here selected, you say, I don't want that, just hit A, and it'll deselect it, and then you can select something else, or you can just hit it twice, and it'll select everything. So anyways, hit it to deselect everything, B to bring up my crosshairs for selection, click and drag with the left mouse button over all these guys, and also one thing you gotta turn on here with the factory settings in Blender is the where's it at here? I don't see it. But if I hit delete the vertices, okay. I guess that's only if you're in solid view. Well, what I was worried about is there's a way to turn on and off the facing vertices, like the ones that you can see. If you don't, what I was worried about is the ones you can see are the only ones you'd be able to edit. But as you can see, it must have been turned off because I was able to delete the ones that I couldn't see also, as long as it's in line with what you can see, what you can. It's kind of hard to explain. But anyways, we'll move on. Now I've only got half, which is good because that means I can just edit half of it and it'll be copied over to the other side. So let's turn on what's called a mirror modifier. We go over here to our, looks like a little wrench, and that's the modifiers, and then add a modifier, and I'm going to add a mirror. You can see it went ahead and added the other half. So let's go back into wireframe view by hitting Z. If you just hit Z, it bounces back between wireframe view and solid view. So go to wireframe view, and now we'll tab into edit mode, and there's all of our faces again. And by the way, you can resize your windows, but like normal, just put your cursor in the middle, and it'll let you do that. So now we can grab all of these guys, hit A, scale on the Z-axis, and let's get it arranged properly here in the vertical axis. Then we'll line it up on the X-axis, and so on and so forth. So just watch and pay attention. Sure, some of you are getting a little fed up with all of my explanations, but I'm trying to keep this series not only for the normal Blender users, but also for people that have never messed with 3D at all. So anyways, trying to get all this lined up fairly evenly. Now there's a nice tool that you can turn on that's called progress, or let's see, what is it called? Go over here, the little circle right there. If you click on that, it's proportional fall off, and you enable it. You click one vertex, and it's gonna partially move all vertices around it real softly. So that's kind of handy sometimes. Like, for example, I want to round off the top of the head right here. I can just select this whole section here. And the reason I don't just click on it is because if you notice, if I just click, it's just going to select one of these vertices in this row. So if I hit B and click and drag, it's going to select all of them. So since I have my proportional fall off turned on, I've just got that whole row selected. I move it down, it's going to kind of softly, the fall off is what it's called, is going to move some of these vertices down with it. So I'm going to move that down, and the way to increase its influence on the other vertices, if you scroll your mouse wheel up and down, it'll make that circle bigger, and you can get more influence there. So let's go ahead and do that, and let's just go ahead and round this up. And let's get down here. Now if you notice, I've got muscle memory built into my fingers here that when I am modeling something, my fingers automatically kind of do what they're needing to do. I got those selected and I want to select something else. Boom, hit A, deselects everything. B to get my crosshairs back up to select. And anyways, so I'm just going to model this side of the face for now. Then once we get done, as you can see, there's a little. My face is not 100% symmetrical, so we'll get a nice symmetrical model first, and then after we finish modeling, we'll go back in and add those non-symmetrical properties. Another thing you might notice is right here we've got some overlap on our mirror. So what we need to do with our mirror modifiers, go over here, turn on clipping. And what that's going to do is kind of glue everything together, those vertices right there in the middle where the mirror meets itself. It's going to kind of stack those all directly together, so you won't have to worry about overlap. So just select all those guys once you turn on clipping, and just hit G and just move your mouse, and it'll glue them together, and it won't let you move them anywhere else. So nice way to keep things from overlapping. So almost smoothed up here. Okay, so we got our front view looking pretty good. Now let's go over here to our side view, and let's do the same thing there. Select everything. I'm going to scale it on the y-axis. Now in other 3D programs, the y-axis is the vertical, but in Blender, z-axis is the vertical, and then y is the to and fro, I guess you could call it, and then x is the horizontal. So, okay, so let's go ahead and start rounding this up around this side of the head. Now you have to compensate for the bulk of the hair sometimes if you're modeling, if your reference photo has really bushy hair. Fortunately, I have a fairly short haircut in here, so we're not going to worry about the nose exactly right now. We'll add that later on when we start doing some more detail. So right now we're just getting the general shape of the head. There's my lack of chin. I don't have much of a chin there. Okay. So that's not too bad. Alright, now it looks good in the side and it looks good from the front, but now if we hit 7 and look down at it, you can see that it's really squared off. And now, like I mentioned before, you can still see the background image no matter what angle you're looking at, as long as it's a perfect angle that you're a solid perspective. Like I hit 7, it's directly from the top. As long as it's a direct angle, you're going to see that background image. So what we can do is just uncheck it for now, and then we check it back later once we need it again. But we just uncheck it for now, and we can start rounding this up. So just grab a corner and just start kind of bringing those in to get that a nice rounded shape there. So like I said, I'm using myself as the reference, and Johnny Blender's sort of a kind of a superhero design. So what we'll do is we'll get our general, normal person model built, and then we'll add in the superhero characteristics afterwards. Okay, so now if we just tab back into solid view, or excuse me, Z back into solid view, and we rotate around, we can kind of see it start to take a head shape. We got some issues there, so let's go ahead and try to fix that up real quick. Turn on that background image again, Z into wireframe view, and let's grab this section here. And another quick trick you can do to kind of smooth things up is just grab a part that's kind of sharp, that needs to be smooth, and just grab all those points. And we hit W, it's going to bring up our specials menu. Go down and hit smooth, and it's going to start smoothing those up. And you can notice it brings them in as well. So let's see what it looks like now. Not too bad. One thing I might do really quick, Z into wireframe view. Let's select all of these guys, all of these faces right here. It's going to be about where the neck is, and let's rotate that up some, and let's go ahead and extrude. Extruding is just, it's basically projecting outwards from some faces. Like I selected all of those bottom ones and I hit E to extrude, and it pretty much just added extra polygons there. So I'm bringing it down for the neck. But as you can see in the front view, it's a little too skinny. I should have came up a little more. So let's Control Z, undo, same as any other program. And let's go ahead and select these guys as well, right there. And let's go back into front view, and that's about right. Let's scale it on the X-axis some just to get it out to the edge there. Maybe rotate it some. And let's go to our side view. Okay, now if we hit extrude, it should look a little bit better. Okay. Okay, so now we zoom Z into solid view. We can kind of see a nice head shape taking shape. Now you might say, well, it's really rough looking. You can see all the polygons. It's not smooth. Doesn't look very good. Well, the way to make it smooth is go over here to your object tools and go where it says shading, turn that to smooth, and boom, there you go. And another trick we can do to make it even more smooth is back over here in the modifiers. Go to add modifier, and we're going to do a subdivision surface. Boom, you can see it automatically adds some nice smoothness to it. And that also saves you a lot of computer memory, because if we're actually working, if our mesh looked exactly like this with all of these faces, it would take up a lot of space, a lot of memory, and a computer would have to calculate all of that. But if you add the subsurf modifier to it, it kind of just makes it, it kind of tricks the computer into saying, look, this is smooth. It's a good way to keep what's called a low polygon, which is the lower you can get, the better, because if you can get a really low polygon but yet have nice detail on it, it renders that much faster. If you create a video game with it, your game will run that much faster. So that's why a lot of video games are really low polygons, so they don't eat up a lot of computer memory. But anyways, that's about 25 minutes or so, 24 minutes maybe. But I'm going to try to keep this in the style of the original Johnny Blender series, where each segment is roughly 20 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. So we're going to call this done on part 1. And in part 2, we'll go ahead and delve in a little deeper and start adding some extra details. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Go back to the right folder, Blender Files, JB 2.0. And this is going to be, I'm going to name it JB_01. So we'll save that, and that'll be that. So thanks for watching, and I hope you're as excited about this series as I am, as I've said before. And I'll catch you in part 2.